calling on the two sides to tone down ahead of Easter.
I'm calling upon the organizers of demonstration in this country to call it off, as at least for this week, the Holy Week, for us to have a break. But even for posterity, let us learn how to solve our issues, not in demonstration and not in use of excessive force.
Speaking separately during a church service at House of Grace in Nairobi West, the spouse of the Deputy President, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, termed the opposition demonstrations as destructive and unhealthy for the country.
I come here to speak for those boys who are out there, the ones who are being abused and those ones who are taking that tear gas, the ones who are killed. Those are my boy children. I've been wanting to turn around, to rehabilitate and cause and to validate their dreams. You and I must validate the dreams of those children.
Now, Kenya Media Sector Working Group has claimed that there was a scheme to shut down the broadcast media and internet services during Azimio's anti-government protest. The media stakeholders, however, say trying to bar the media from administering their role will be breaching the law.
Journalists covering Azimio's anti-government protests have been on the receiving end from both the police and protesters as they clashed. In the wake of this, media stakeholders have met to discuss strategies to protect journalists. The Kenya Media Sector Working Group now claims that there are plans to shut down broadcast media and the internet.
The government should not do anything that denies the free flow of information to the public. We say this because we have received reports of plans to shut down the broadcast media and to shut down the internet and throw the country into information darkness ahead of tomorrow's demonstrations.
Kenya Editors Guild President Chachilo Otieno claims the move will plunge the nation into murky waters.
This would be most ill-advised and a grievous assault on Kenya's democracy because it denies the Kenyan citizens and the Kenyan public their rights to information. From the media perspective, taking this route will sink us all as a country.
We stand for an open, free and democratic society. A society where all can freely exercise the right to freedom of opinion and expression, including seeking, receiving and imparting information and ideas. This is fundamental for democracy and liberty.
He condemned the attacks on journalists, calling on investigative bodies to launch a probe into the matter and apprehend the offenders. In a quick rejoinder during his address to the nation on Sunday, President William Ruto distanced his administration from allegations of planning to shut down the media.
We believe that the media should be left to carry out its duties, its broadcasts, irrespective of how unfair they may be. Just for the record, because I have seen some other people say, oh, maybe the media will be, I don't know what will be switched off. Take it from me. Kenya has come a long way. The era of switching off, I don't know, this or that's way behind us.
Separately, videographers of Kenya under the Kenya Television Lens Association, drawn from different media houses, have expressed concern of the safety of journalists during Monday and Thursday demonstrations. In a joint statement, the journalists are calling upon the government of Kenya and protesters to respect the members of the Fourth Estate, saying their lenses serve the public interest.
Kenyan media and their journalists have now come under new and growing attack. The situation is worsening in what appears as a campaign to cripple independent media and individual journalists through a combination of commercial, verbal and physical attacks. We call upon the government, the police, IG, IPOA, Media Complaints Commission and the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy to take action before the situation deteriorates.
Kutokea wiki iliyopita. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali tafadhali ingilieni waandishi wa habari wana uhuru katika ile kipengele ya 34 ya kufanya kazi yao bila uoga yote, bila kuingiliwa.
Now that story by Trevor Ngendo brings us to our first break of the program. But we'll be back in just a short while with more, including sports.
Take on Tech, a weekly program that brings you technological debates and concepts. Let us assume we have a young innovator who has come up with an app.
Financial technology and financial services is a very complex game.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news both locally and internationally. Apple has lost its position as the most valuable firm amid tech sellers. We also explore different innovations by our very own young innovators. Make sure you don't miss. Tune in every Monday at 10:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
You've seen your potential. Unafanya kazi nzuri sana.
Na tukilinganisha na zile recommendations ambazo tulipewa na Inspector Torome, we believe this is the right fit for you.
Hey! Unataka nini wewe? Unaniumiza. Unataka nini? Unaniumiza. Unataka nini kama utaki?
There are rumors that you have another family.
Rumors that I have another family. Well, this is my family, and I think it's one.
What do you think?
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We'll let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened.
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
Welcome back. We continue with the news, where the government has put on notice private recruitment agencies which violate the recruitment procedures of domestic workers. Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore says already 26 private recruitment agencies have been deregistered for going against such regulations. She was speaking during a tour of the Kenya School of Government to assess the state of preparedness to host the 3 days Kenya Social Protection Conference 2023, which kicks off today.
Speaking during a tour of the Kenya School of Government, which will host the 3 days Kenya Social Protection Conference 2023, which kicks off Monday, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore warned that the law will catch up with unscrupulous agencies that are flouting the laid-down procedures by the state.
We are in progress also with Australia and UK, so that those challenges that were there will be reduced, because now we are doing and reviewing new agreements so that our people are able to work within the timelines, they're able to be paid better salaries and be treated well.
Bore says already 26 private recruitment agencies have been registered for going against the set regulation by the state.
And as a ministry, currently we have deregistered about 26 of them. The directors didn't turn up. There were no premises to show. So some of those agencies are just there by name to say we are going to continue with that process. And these recruitment agencies should do the right thing.
The CS further says the Social Protection Conference is going to provide an opportunity to take stock and identify gaps in the sector.
The 2023 Social Protection Conference will provide us with a way forward towards inclusion and expansion of social protection interventions to all deserving Kenyans.
The CS says the state will redouble its efforts in the Inua Jamii cash transfer program to increase its coverage. She says this was in line with the Kenya Kwanza manifesto that seeks to improve the lives of the vulnerable.
Currently, the State Department of Social Protection spends about 26 billion in the Inua Cash Transfer Program under the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. Going forward, and based on the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, we are seeking to even do better in expanding the social protection programs with the support of our development partners.
President William Ruto will officially open the conference with more than 500 local international delegates expected to attend.
Now, Correctional Services Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni has called on the judiciary to fast-track criminal cases pending in court as a way of easing pressure on prison facilities which are already congested. The PS decried the amount of resources government is spending on inmates, with nearly half of them being remandees whose cases are yet to be determined. PS Muthoni spoke during a Sunday service at the committee maximum prison.
Being a Palm Sunday, the Principal Secretary Correctional Services Mary Muthoni joined Catholic faithful in committee to mark the important day in the Christian calendar. The PS, senior officials in the prison services and the inmates participating in a colorful procession inside the confinement facility. The presiding minister, Father Peter Kimani, who serves as a chaplain of Catholic faithfuls within the committee maximum prison.
Even when we are wrongly accused, even when we are serving sentences here in prison, even when we are suffering out there, but God sees everything, the truthful person.
Owing to congestion in most of Kenya's penal institutions, the Principal Secretary has called on the judiciary to fast-track cases pending in court to determine the fate of remandees.
You realize how almost half of the inmates or the people that we are holding in our prisons today are in remand. And this is totally a very high number. That means this person wakes up, dresses up, and maybe cleans up with water that is paid by the government, eats in the facility, will sleep on the same beds that we are talking about.
The PS called for the need to embrace alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that would keep petty offenders from the formal court process.
If we were using alternative dispute resolutions properly at the village level, at the lowest level of the society, we could not be using this, we could not be seeing this influx of the remandees in our stations.
To give dignity to the inmates, PS Muthoni says the ministry seeks to procure 20,000 triple-decker beds to ensure each has a bed to themselves.
We want to handle our inmates in the best of the dignity, and that is why we are talking about having one prisoner, one bed, one mattress. It is part of our rehabilitative program.
That story by John Jacob Curia takes us to the sports news, where Gor Mahia's hopes of featuring in the next season's CAF Confederation Cup went up in smoke after being eliminated from the Mozartbet Cup tournament. The Kenya Premier League leaders lost 1-0 to Kakamega Homeboys in a match played at the Buhungu Stadium. Meanwhile, KCB FC beat Bidco United on post-match penalties to qualify for the last 8.
KCB are through to the Mozartbet Cup quarter-finals after they beat Bidco United post-match penalties.
Kimbilia ngoma ile Lampard. Kule juu kwa juu, hatari, goal!
Kidogo ili kuweza kutafuta nafasi ya kuweza kumtafuta Onyango Henry na Kahiro Francis. Kwa ni bao safi sana.
They will now face Tusker FC in the quarter-finals of the tournament. Meanwhile, Gor Mahia's hopes of featuring at next season's CAF Confederations Cup went up in smokes today after being eliminated from the Mozartbet Cup tournament. The Kenya Premier League leaders lost 1-0 to Kakamega Homeboys in a match played at Buhungu Stadium. The lone goal was netted by Moses Mudavadi in the 57th minute.
Mpira ikishafika hapo kwa penalty hakuna kitu unaweza fanya. Ni kuacha saa zingine hata kwangi mwenye amecheza vizuri uanga mwenye bahati kwenye matuta bana, ni ule mwenye ana bahati then ana progress.
I'm happy because tulikuwa ready for any eventuality, taking into consideration that kwa knockouts pia kuna penalty, so nafikiri tulikuwa ready upande hiyo pia.
Homeboys will now face Kariobangi Sharks in the quarter-finals of the tournament. Sharks qualified after beating Equity 1-0 today.
Tena hapa Sharks leo kule, goal! Anafunga bao maridadi kabisa hapa Paulo Kof. Megewa pasi nzuri kabisa hapa kutoka kwake Geoffrey Onyango.
In other games played today, Bandari also qualified after beating Mwatate FC 2-0, while AFC Leopards also sailed through with a 1-0 win over Muranga Seal.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. The sports news brings us to the end of the news this morning. And now I want to pave the way for Victor Law with Eye on Politics, where he will be engaging our guests who are already in studio. Stay tuned also for updates for the news, of the news that is, at 1 p.m. So thank you so much, Victor. It's over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Marie, for that. Now, very quickly, let me take you through the front page of our local dailies here. I have the Star, the People Daily, the Standard, and the Daily Nation. And later on, we'll be having our discussion here just to make sense of what has been happening for the last 2 or 3 weeks in our country. Now that today there's no maandamano after a truce between the president and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Just to alert you that in studio I have my guest already, Esther Ekenyuri, who is nominated senator, already in studio. There you have her. And Robert Alai, who is member of County Assembly, Nairobi County, representing Kileleshwa Ward. We are still waiting for Wakili Biko Ashwe, who is an advocate of the High Court and a governance expert as well, to join us shortly in studio. But nonetheless, let's get the show on the road. Let me start with the front page of the Star newspaper. Ruto backs down after meeting with Raila emissaries. Ruto backs down after meeting with Raila emissaries. Head of state agrees to talks on the reconstitution of the IBC. And Azimio calls of demos, says ready to hold talks. That is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Still continues that president rules out shutdown of media and internet during Azimio demos. Media actually got a bigger chunk of the brunt during that kind of protest over the last 1 week. And now the president said that he will support the media in whichever way we go. I call it we go. All right. Of course, Christians mark start of Christ journey to cross the Palm Sunday yesterday, and across the country, several faithful also made it to the street to celebrate that particular day. 5 more die as highway deaths. So before Easter, it's been an upward trend after Several accidents were reported over the past 1 week or so. The number of people dying in road accidents is soaring ahead of Easter activities, with over 20 killed in just 3 days. That is a sad state of affairs there. And Maranda student among the victims in crash near Keroka in Kisii County. Okay, very quickly, let me take you to the inner pages. Raila Odinga lays bare whistleblower dossier. Raila Odinga lays bare whistleblower dossier. As Raila leads the Azimio battalion into a fourth mass action, the former Prime Minister unveiled what he says are the genuine results across the 290 constituencies. Raila published Forms 34Bs, which he says original forms as captured in the IEBC service. We'll get into that later on. Okay. On to the front page of the People Daily. Time for talks. That is what's on the front page. Time for talks. President extends an olive branch to Raila. Says that he's ready for talks on forming new IEBC. Azimio leader stands down protest, expresses willingness to dialogue. And move comes after appeal by religious leaders. We have got on the front page there, we have got, the president and Azimio leader who spoke, after 1 hour of the president spoke at around 5:30 thereabout, and Raila Odinga had his press at around 7 p.m. Okay, last week, again, there was a story about students of Mukumu Girls in Kakamega County who were taken ill after, diagnosed with some cholera. Now shock as Mukumu Girls students die of cholera. And over 100 learners were hospitalized last week after they complained of abdominal pains. That is a story that we'll continue to cover for you. But so far, 2 students have died of what is suspected to be cholera at the Sacred Hearts Mukumu Girls High School in Kakamega County. And in a statement, the school principal, Frida Nodio, confirmed that 2 died at their homes in Bungoma and Kakamega counties. Of course, the statement came as Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale led other leaders from the county in demanding action against the school administration over the disease outbreak at the institution. Our hearts goes to the students and the families affected that far. All right. Raila calls off demos after Ruto says that he is ready for IEBC talks. Azimio coalition leader demands a balanced parliamentary process to co-chaired by both sides and backed by experts. We'll get into that, the intrigues that led to the step down of the 2 gentlemen. The headlines already drawn. All right, and on the front page of the Standard, intrigues that led to the big climb down after weeks of hardened positions. President William Ruto offers olive branch to proposing a bipartisan approach through Parliament to resolve the issues. Azimio leader Raila Odinga calls of protest amid condition. I think at this particular point, let me just introduce my guests so that we can also do some warm-up and mic test. Let me start with the lady only in the panel. So start with you. Senator, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Karibu sana.
Quite a good morning. A sigh of relief. At least we are not now descending to anarchy. We have now a chance to give room to talks and get back to respecting the rule of law and constitution generally. And I'm happy actually for the step that the president took. The president has always been a statesman. He's now giving room that yes, we can listen to what you're doing, but within the constitution. You remember when the president was campaigning, he swore to defend our constitution. And that is what he actually displayed yesterday. So I also welcome the position by Right Honorable Raila Odinga, giving room to now the processes operating within the law. And I hope he won't again prematurely go to the streets, but give room to the bipartisan processes being carried out to take place. Yes.
Absolutely. Mheshimiwa Robert, at the end of the day, you were there yesterday. What really happened? it must have been a very long Sunday for the Azimio team.
No, I think, thank you so much for the invite and for having us in this show. First, I would like to convey my condolences to the students of Pumwani in Pwani University.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think we lost some more last night in an Easy Coast crash in Gilgil. And I think the 5 who have died on the road crashes, and I would encourage our drivers to be very careful on the road. And sometimes it's because of the kind of short timelines we had during the protest. People are rushing everywhere to try to keep up with the time so that they are not locked out from wherever they operate from. So I think I was there, and what I saw, just being on the sidelines of the 2 major events, is that the president offered an olive branch. He extended his unclenched fist, and Raila basically said, yes, I'm ready to listen to you too. And I think that's basically what happened. People are reading too much into it. I would encourage us not to take hardline stance, and also to realize that both sides were claiming to operate within the constitution. The people protesting are guided by within the law. They are doing it within the law, and they say they had a right to it. And until the police got in and became very violent and tried to disperse us, we were tear gassed in Kawangware.
Yeah.
We even lost a police vehicle, which I think rose as a result of a tear gas canister, which was returned. It was thrown into the protesters, and it was returned back to the police by the protesters who were throwing it back to the police, and so it exploded inside the police vehicle and burnt it down all. It was sometimes very violent, seeing the police were blocking front and back, and inside that very terrifying moment when the police got into you not know what to do in that instance, especially in the very narrow corridors. And I think that this is a very good chance for us to review what we want to take, where we want to take this country, and what we want to do with it. Still, I would urge us to pay attention that it's only 1 week. The Right Honorable former Prime Minister has clearly indicated that we have 1 week to ensure that we show interest, that are we ready to move as a country, or we are going. I'm very happy that the president has taken up the chance to, because his main point of offering the olive branch was that let's reconstitute IBC, but let's do it within the law. And he believes that Parliament is a very good vehicle for that. Yes.
Okay. The president talked about, the issue of IBC. We didn't hear former Prime Minister Raila Odinga talk about the issue of high cost of living, again, which is the main reason why he's protesting, as well as other reasons. But we'll come back to that later on. Wakili Bikasho, welcome to the program.
Asante sana.
We are going through the newspapers, and this is it. Intrigues that led to big climb down. Of course, someone had to, to blink. And at this particular point, I don't need to say that who had to blink first. I mean, in 1 hour, all of them had a press conference. The president said he had suggestions, what he suggested, and Raila Odinga said, fine, let's give it a week. What do you make of this? All of them claiming that operating in between the constitution.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this show, for starters. I think we needed a situation whereby we would get a bigger person to initiate the processes that were actually undertaken yesterday in the evening. And in my very honest opinion, the very first person to have done that, in the very best interest of this country, would have been had to be the president. Remember, in his speech yesterday, he said that even our image internationally had been, tainted. And so we had to get someone to bite that bullet. That person definitely wasn't going to be Raila Odinga. That person was going to be the president himself. I liked the way he came out though not backed by, one would have ordinarily expected that then he would be having his whole team of cabinet secretaries and people flanking him even during the presser. But then we just saw him and and his deputy. But then if you looked at his speech and whatever proposals that he had yesterday, they were very calculated. He never promised anything major. He never gave so much. And you remember when His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga came with his rebuttal. He came in with almost six points. That was a response to the proposal that had been given to the president. Some of the responses that he gave were not even issues that had been addressed by the president in his speech, right? So the president wanted to give his proposal as lean as possible. Raila came in rebuttal to include as much as he could, because he knows for a fact that if he gets it wrong from the very onset in this negotiation that has been proposed, then it will be detrimental to him moving forward. So both camps are being very calculative in their moves, so that they don't get it wrong from the very
you'll get to some of those proposals they're talking about.
Yes.
That Raila expanded, quote unquote, his demands to that. But Mheshimiwa Senator, the president had to be the bigger person here. Of course, it was expected. But what picture did you get out of it? He only came with his deputy, and even from the dress code, his deputy appeared to, he was in the sport shoes, it was kind of a laid-back Sunday and a dress. This was a serious situation affecting the country. But appearance also matters here.
But really, do you want to address matters of national importance according to how someone is dressed? What was of key interest to me is that we cannot continue with the protests anymore, because you see, as a result of those protests, there was destruction of property, people died, the economy is actually hurting. So for me, of keen interest was that he actually cares about what Kenyans are currently going through. And looking at what the Right Honorable and Azimio team were now saying, they are open to the discussions. And I'm happy that they are saying they're open to discussions and they will allow the bipartisan parliamentary process to take place. That is, if it's issues of the court orders, I think the courts will look at that. If it's issues to do with IBC and the server that they largely mention, I'll actually even encourage them, because Azimio has not produced new evidence that the ICT systems were compromised. But if they have any, this is an opportunity for them to present to IBC, because IBC has not concluded the internal audit process of the 2022 elections. For me, my focus is the president has an agenda of moving this country forward. He's always encouraged a dialogue in a way of proceeding. That's why you've seen him in the past encouraging and even hosting very many delegations from people who didn't even support him winning this election, because now he's president and is extending an only fund, rightly what he's done to Azimio. So for me, my worry or key point that would interest me is on whether in this 1 week Azimio is going to prematurely again run to the streets. We do not want to have this country descending to anarchy. Our neighbors, you've seen some of our neighbors who've gone to those extremes. I don't know if people have read about Idi Amin and what was happening those days. That's what we are likely to experience when we bury our heads down and do not want to reason together. But I'm happy that leaders are now getting to the reality that we can actually take this country to anarchy, and that's something we as leaders should be on the front line, avoiding and defending the constitution, rightfully so. Because even when my friend Robert says the constitution allows picketers, yes, to go on the streets, but the same constitution does not allow picketers to destroy property. It does not protect them from doing that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's take a break. We come back. Article 37. Wakili, we talked about that yesterday. Everybody knows about Article 37, including, Article 37, the right to do this and that, but, we have got limits as well. Okay, let's take a break, and we come back. We are going to get into more details on what really happened yesterday and what we should expect moving forward shortly after this. Join us.
I want to take this opportunity to invite Kenyans to the Connected Summit that we will be hosting in Diani at the coast this coming week. This is an integral forum that enables all integral stakeholders within the ICT industry to come together so that as members of the ICT fraternity, we determine the challenges that we are facing, the opportunities available, and the necessary interventions that we need to introduce to facilitate optimal uptake of the opportunities available for us as a country.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
Will your children sleep hungry when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table?
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Tell her to show her face.
I think that Amparo is hiding from my son.
And who might you be? I'll be the new vet of Las Bandidas. Nice to see you, Cáceres. It will be a pleasure to have you at my beck and call, veterinarian. Zenaida, where is Amparo?
Amparo ran away from home. She left with my son, Ruben.
Hey, listen up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engine.
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe? Let's go! Let's go! It's technology. Let's go! Let's go! Science, you and me. Let's go! Let's go! We're learning every day. Let's go! Let's go!
Let's ask, let's learn, and let's love. And don't forget to make it fun!
All right, and welcome back. Okay, finally, let me take you on the front page of the Daily Nation. Reason at last. That's on the front page. Reason at last. And now 3 people have been killed since the protest started on March 20th. That is on the front page. Now, it's an issue of give and take. A collective sigh of relief swept through Kenya last evening after today's protests were called off following the softening of hardline stances by President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga, giving Kenyans the peace they craved in by this holy season of Ramadan and Easter. President Ruto was the first to extend an olive branch by acceding to one of Azimio's demands on the reconstitution of the future Electoral Commission, a move Odinga welcomed and agreed to call off the protests. My question is to you, Robert. It was only one condition that the president addressed. Yes. 2 remained. That's opening of the servers and the cost of living. And Raila Odinga again did not speak about it. A calculated move?
No, I think what we got from the president, gleaning from the president, that the president was extending an olive branch. It didn't matter what the substance of his extension was. What was important is that for the first time, there was no ultimatums, there were no threats, there were no issues, there are no hardline stances. So what the president was just saying that, can we talk? But being the president, he wanted to look like he was not giving too much, because also realizing that he's in the presidency with others who have already taken a very hardline stance. What is interesting from this is that during the weekend, the president was off radar for a long time. Maybe he was making phone calls, maybe he was listening to advisors who were giving him better advice than he would get from Rigathi Gachagua. Maybe that's why he was not in Malava for a function of his very close aide. That's why he was not in a church service, a very passionate person on religious matters. I think the president was very categorical, was very tactical, and this is a win for Kenya. He has given us a breathing space, and what mattered was that he extended an olive branch, he extended an unclenched fist, and Baba, being Baba, said that, okay, you have said, can we talk? Because imagine if the president did what he did and we say that we are still going to go on with the protest, it was going to look like we are very unreasonable people in Azimio. It was not going to be a very good show to Kenyans. We are also, Baba is a very good statesman, and the president borrowed from the template of President Uhuru. He said that we can talk, we can still sit on the same table, we don't have to agree on everything. President Uhuru was very categorical when he had the handshake with Baba. He said that I might not agree with whatever, a lot of things with the Raila Odinga, but what I know is that he has the best interest of the country at heart, and that was the most important thing. And Baba gave his condition. He said, can we release our young people who were arrested just because they appeared in our protest? Can we also address the issue of the high cost? The president, Baba addressed that, the high cost of living. He talked about it in the answers to the journalist. He also said that the opposition MPs, which I think the president needed to have addressed in the press conference, these are some of the low-hanging fruits. Let the opposition MPs be opposition MPs. Why are they going to work with government? Why are they pretending to be now government? If you are elected in ODM, go to ODM. If you don't want to live within ODM confines, please resign and get somebody elected. Maybe UDA can take the seat if you think that UDA is very popular in that area. But please work with the party which sponsored you, because the party spent resources in the nominations. The party ensured some of these people were trained through the party structures, and when you just switch camps and now you deny the party good bargaining positions to ensure that the people, the citizens of this country get a better governance, I think is not fair. And the president, Raila gave that as one of the conditions for us to ensure that we achieve within the 1 week.
Wakili, at the end of the day, this was expected. It wasn't going to go on for a very long time. The president had to climb down.
He had to, and I think context is important. If you look at the run-up to whatever happened yesterday, there are several activities that if you are a keen Kenyan, you would have realized that we were headed that direction. When the president was out of the country, he had several meetings. And even as he was having several meetings outside the country, within, as he left, the deputy president in charge of, running the country, the president equally had several other meetings with several other people, including the delegation from the US, which delegation as well met, the deputy president and Raila Odinga as well, and so it's important for us to look at it holistically. Is it something that was expected? My answer to that is a yes. Is it something that the president would have wanted that we have maandamano? And from the rumors that I had, Raila had the intention probably of having a daily maandamano moving forward. And what was his aim? His aim is to cripple government completely, to ensure that it doesn't realize whatever it is that they had promised Kenyans in their manifestos. His aim was to ensure that the capital city appears like it is on a lockdown.
Yes.
And you see, that is not, that is not proper. That is not good for the image of the country. And so, if you put in so much pressure, it would only lead to one direction. That one person has to give in, and just like I said when I started, that person to give in was going to be the president, and he did it. So it is something that was expected.
Does it making a weaker person?
No, absolutely not. In fact, if you look at the quote that he gave yesterday, that is the president, when he says that reason is not, you do not only become reasonable when when you realize that it is time to to stand up, or there was that quote that he gave. But then also when when you realize that it is also time to sit down. Right?
Yes.
So it doesn't make him a weaker person. It in fact makes him a stronger person. It actually makes him the bigger person here. And the fact that immediately after he gave, you realize that it took almost 1 hour between the time Raila Odinga said that he was going to give a presser to the time when he was giving it. It is because much as he realized, or much as he may have known that the president was going to give that presser, he never knew the content of whatever it is that he was going to address.
Had to get time.
So he had to get time. He had to get time to just internalize it, consult with his with his principals, so that they can come up with with a proper response to whatever it is that the president had given to the nation. So context is important, and also realizing that the president has a mandate to execute to Kenyans. And Raila Odinga, on the other hand, also has an agenda that he intends to push, and everyone is being very calculative in their in their moves, and which is actually a better thing, because if you look at the rules in ADR, that is alternative dispute resolution, which is happening right now, and more especially in negotiations, when you get to the negotiating table, you get to the negotiating table very tactically, because if you don't become tactical, if you don't become tactical about it, your opponent will definitely beat you in your very own game.
Exactly.
So, and that is what both sides are that's what both sides are playing.
Mheshimiwa, as UDA or Kenya Kwanza, are you happy with the development?
Yes, let me first, I'm very happy that young people are now not going to be used on the streets. Look at this. Most of the people are spearheading maandamano. Someone like Honorable Kalonzo was first elected in 1986. I was not even born. My mother was still in school. Raila Odinga was first elected in 92. I was being born then. Martha Karua was advocated as an advocate of the High Court in 1982. My mother was in school. These are people who have secured the future of their children already. It's in public domain.
Yeah.
And then the same people want to involve young people in maandamano. So for me, calling off, I'm happy with the development, because then we are going to engage in a very constructive business around in this country that will give this government a chance to implement what they wanted to do for the people of Kenya. You cannot want to burn your country into ashes, then want to govern over ashes. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
The issue about opening of servers is a discussion we shouldn't even entertain as leaders. Maybe the advocate of the High Court can advise if we have a part in the Constitution that allows us to scrutinize after the Supreme Court has already made their verdict. And if you remember, IBC, Azimio were given an opportunity when they requested for an ICT scrutiny, which was granted by the Supreme Court. And then there was no dispute over that. So calling for opening of servers at this point is a backdoor attempt to revisit the decision of the Supreme Court, which as leaders we should not entertain, because then we will not be respecting our constitution.
Yeah.
Because clearly we say after the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, has ruled on a certain issue, why would we go ahead and challenge it that we are opening the servers, you know, this and this. So what the president actually did was right, and I do not want to read much politics into it, because the president now is not politicking. He's out here to implement his manifesto. One of the key highlights of his manifesto was defending the Constitution of Kenya, which he's doing. Presidency is a symbol of national unity. When he's actually extending this, we've seen him being attacked from all angles, that you are buying the opposition. Even we have had members of Azimio claim that the president should stop buying more members. How is the president buying members? And these are people who have already seen the president has a plan. They want to work with him in ensuring Kenyans are moving forward. And for the ones who are in opposition, really, is it the business of government to organize opposition? They need to serve their role and give those highlights without complaining about government interfering. It's not our business to organize.
We've had how Kenya Kwanza MPs have been speaking, including Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah over the weekend in Malava, I think was at a function. He was so direct and hard-hitting to Honorable Raila Odinga. You know, we can get the clip, it's in public domain. But then, do you think the president, you know, just scattered everything because it was on Saturday that happened, and then on Sunday evening there was a truce?
You know, like I've said, presidency is a symbol of national unity. For politics of the day, of course, politics will always happen. And from what the majority leader was saying, you know, we have to caution people who want to make this country descend to anarchy, because this is what they thrive on. And I've warned you about what you're likely to face when this country goes to anarchy. I do not know if people think about what we are seeing in other countries. You saw what was in Liberia. If someone can actually be shot when you're watching, really, is that the direction we want to go to? It's actually time we pull back the mask, if I quote Miguna's book, and show the real character of most of these members in Azimio. You cannot, one hand cannot be pushing for this, and one hand is doing something different. So in as much as, yes, our colleagues have been very strong, issuing strong stances in their statements, they're actually cautioning people from wanting to force this country to descend to anarchy, which is a very bad experiment. In fact, the issue of the handshake they keep talking about, we are not, personally I do not subscribe to that one, because it is in the regime of the handshake that we saw even the KEMSA scandals, money that was looted in the name of subsidies. Before we even, when we had those subsidies during that electioneering period, we were buying unga at 250 with subsidies. Now with no subsidies, we are buying at 193 shillings. So the issue of a handshake, if it's talking about issues that are generally concerning people, fine. But the issue of a handshake is a very bad leadership experiment we ever saw in this country. And I do not think we want to go there. That's why when you listened to the president keenly, he was very keen on even the proposals he was giving. Let these proposals be within the constitutions, be within the constitution. No two people sitting and making decisions on behalf of 50 million Kenyans.
Okay. Why not?
I think
two people sitting and making
no. I think
why not?
I think
I mean, these are the two big contenders in the last election.
Yes, I think we are trivializing this debate. When we want to bring in the issues of handshakes and so on and so forth, I think we are trivializing the debate because we've had both sides of the divide. You know, I would want to trust that the issue of the handshake is an issue that the Kenya Kwanza diehards are pushing or are shoving down the throats of the Azimio team. I've listened to this debate for quite some time. The Azimio team is very categorical about the issue of the handshake, and they're saying that they're not doing this for the handshake. The Kenya Kwanza team,
but a lie here.
Yes, the Kenya Kwanza team, on the other hand, is vehemently pushing that agenda.
So you think they need it?
No, they don't need it.
Okay.
They don't need it. And the reason why I'm saying that is very simple. If you look at the issues that have been brought on the table by the Azimio team, which issues I've had the opportunity to interact with, at the center of everything is they are questioning the legitimacy of the the current dispensation. That is one. Two, they want us to have this discussion on the issues of the electoral body. And if you look at the history of the electoral body from the time of 1992, 1997, where we have the electoral Commission of Kenya, and then we had, I think, the IIEC, and then they had Kivuito, and then we had the Isaac Hassan, and so on and so forth. If you look at the changes that happened over the years, there are changes that were done extra-constitutional. There were extra-constitutional changes that were made. There were changes that were done outside whatever it is that the Constitution had provided. And the route that we are taking insofar as the changes in the IBC is concerned, as we are talking right now, are not changes that will be achieved if we are going to adhere to the letter and spirit of the Constitution. We are going to go over and above what the Constitution provides to ensure that we then can accommodate the proposals that have been provided for by the proposal that are being agitated by the Azimio team or by the Azimio side. If we were to follow the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, some of the proposals that are being propagated by Azimio cannot be achieved. So and that is why the president was very categorical in his statement, and he was saying that let us have a parliamentary a parliamentary guided process, and then Honorable Raila comes in and says that even as we go that direction, we want that panel to be co-chaired. We want an inclusion of, we want to have a say in whatever that process.
Will this cure the kind of ills that we've had, from the Kivuito-led team? We have Isaac Hassan, who's actually written a book. You can also take that book here. He said that while Sergeant Dramat Bombers, he's just documented what happens at the election body.
Right.
But will it actually cure what we face as a nation from the Electoral Commission as an electoral agents?
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey. We have been curing, it's like we've been giving this medicine in small doses.
Okay.
But then even if you look at what is happening even regionally, you'd realize that Kenya is in a better place. You remember we had elections in Kenya, and almost immediately we had elections in Nigeria. And whatever happened in Nigeria, people are saying, but Kenya looks like we are saints. And it is because of the gains that we have achieved over the years, because of this agitation that we've had as a country after every election.
Okay.
So we are making it better even as we proceed forward.
Hold on to that.
Yes.
Robert, what are some of the demands that Azimio is flouting, specifically that made Raila Odinga said, okay, fine, we can have this talk, but after 1 week, if we don't see any white smoke, then back to the streets?
I think the various demands were clearly laid out by our leader, Raila Odinga, and he said that, first, some of them increased because of the protest, like the issue of the release of the young boys who were arrested because of the participating in the process, and charges trumped out on them, and them being placed on the scene, not because there's any evidence, but because the police just look for somebody to hold to account because of the distractions and the lootings, which some of them we believe were instigated by the state actors. The other thing I think is the issue of the opposition MPs, like we said, and that is very critical to us. The Cherera 4, they have to be reinstated. Then this process takes over, that if they have to be removed, they have to be removed in a process which is bipartisan. And some of these things, you know, my worry is that, you know, people like the senator here are taking very hardline positions. And these hardline positions, every time you see leaders take hardline positions, the country loses. And when the country loses, they also at some point, the people who have taken the hardline positions, they become irrelevant.
Yes.
You know, so the best thing, you know, you see how it looks. If you have the best tools, you can check even the conversations online on how the deputy president of the country, who is part of the presidency, looks when, even on the day of that, you know, clear truce between the president and his opposer, the deputy president was taking very hardline, extreme positions. The leader of the majority in the parliament and the Senate taking very extreme positions. But what are some of the A and B's of this bipartisan approach, the reconstitution of the electoral commissioners, the demands by Azimio? No, you know, like you said, that, you know, first reinstate the Cherera 4, reinstate them, because they were not removed in a very, you know, fair process. Okay. Then, if you want to remove them, please go through the law and make it bipartisan. Because you know why Kenya is peaceful is because people have a hope that after every 5 years we are going to have an election. And if I believe that if Kenya Kwanza if the president didn't move with speed to try to reconstitute IBC the way he did, we would have not gone to the streets. We went to the street because first the president was not giving us hope that in 2027, if you want and campaign to have an MCA, MP, senator, governor, and president, you will have a fair process. Because he was like going to control the whole team of IBC commissioners. And this was very critical in that. And I'm very happy that it's one thing which he mentioned, which he mentioned in that communique from State House. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mheshimiwa, you know, because you asked that question of, you know, the opening of the servers. Can a court actually order? Does court have powers over IBC to either say do not open or open the servers? Or, you know, and IBC is an independent body, and therefore do courts have those powers over IBC? That one you'll answer. But Mheshimiwa, you're accused of, you know, Kenya Kwanza taking hard stands. Even this is happening. At this particular point, Kenya Kwanza is completely opposed to the handshake. The president said yesterday that yes, he's not ready for that handshake that was there, all right, in the last regime. If perhaps there would be another form of handshake, then let it be another handshake that is not going to have, you know, you are not able to differentiate where there is a government and opposition, but a handshake to bring peace, not with officers and sirens according to some people, some quarters. Is that what you want? A handshake, yes, for peace of this nation, but not.
You know, we can have hundreds of handshakes. We can have so many of them. It's not a new phenomenon in this country. But what I would want, currently what we are seeing is a deliberate move to stall the Constitution. What I would actually be interested in seeing is the operationalization of the judicial fund, the financial independence of the police, the functional independence of Chapter 15 institutions, so that even when we are coming to Parliament, you know, people keep saying, oh, now we have tyranny of numbers, so actually nothing even from the opposition side can be listened to. I would want, even in Parliament, the majority pushes their side, and the opposition does their checks and balances, so that we have a balanced way of existing. Why most of us are against the handshake popularity we saw in the past regime is because that arrangement culminated to so many other things. I had initially said we had the KEMSA scandal, which up to date people have never been arrested over the same. We had the 26 mini 15 billion theft. We had the 8 billion per month maize subsidy fraud that happened. And we have even had confessions. You heard what Margaret Nyakango was saying the other time to the parliamentary committee that was grilling her. Is that what you want us to go back to? Because when people go to bed together in the form of a handshake, we have no checks and balances.
Are you trying to agree that if there's the handshake, there'll be theft of
and that's what I'm saying, that was a bad leadership experiment, because then we have no one
what
who
if
is...
the leaders learn from the past? That now we're going to have...
You cannot learn from the past, because you see this handshake being pushed here. Actually, Raila Odinga lost the election. And he said he's not going to, he agrees with the decision of the Supreme Court, but he's not comfortable, you see. When you respect that one, that's okay. But when you come through the back door saying you're even going to have prayers at IBC to put pressure, that is actually what makes us read that there is a push to have a handshake. And the handshake we know about in this country was a very bad leadership experiment. You cannot show us of another handshake that we do not know about. That we know about is very well known in the public domain. We saw what happened as a result of that. And those are some of the issues we are grappling with currently in this leadership.
Okay. Apart from the allegations, is somebody afraid of the handshake? Could there be somebody who is not comfortable with the handshake, that if Raila Odinga happens to have this handshake, 2 or 3 people will be victims of that? Maybe you can just answer that when you come after this break.
Okay.
Let's take a break and we come back. Who is this pushing for that handshake? Because the president can say, for the sake of the nation, I will even say what he said yesterday, which was also posted by Kithure Kindiki. He said that at this particular point, nobody is big, small, nobody is right or wrong. The country first.
Yes.
Who is afraid of this handshake? Let's take a break. We'll be coming back with more after this.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We'll let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened. Bah!
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta
do. You're seeing your potential. Unafanya kazi nzuri sana.
Na tukilinganisha na zile recommendations ambazo tulipewa na Inspector Torome, we believe this is the right fit for you.
Hey! Unataka nini wewe? Unaniuliza. Unataka nini? Unaniuliza. Unataka liza mutaki.
There are rumors that you have another family.
Rumors that I have another family. Well, this is my family and I think it's one. What do you think?
settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the Hustler Fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. The show on air is Good Morning Kenya, right here on KBC Channel 1. We are still continuing with our discussion. We're just making sense of what really happened yesterday. You know, we had a very rough 3 weeks, and in particular, as media, we had, you know, some rough points. But that's what we call occupational hazard, just for you to get that story. All right. Before we continue, let me cross over to Kwale County. My colleague Caroline is standing by to give us an update on what's happening there on the Connect Summit that is in Kwale County. It is an amazing moment. Good morning, Caroline. Happy to see you. It is coming at a time that the country is gearing for a digital transformation. What else can you tell us from Kwale County?
Well, good morning, Victor, and it is Wairu Mujenga right here from Kwale County in Diani, specifically at the Leisure Lodge Golf Resort, where the Connected Summit Kenya is happening right here. In the next few hours, we'll be kicking off the main event, and this is the much anticipated Connected Summit 2023, where ICT innovators, government policymakers, we have innovators as well coming right here to have conversations, to share knowledge, to share ideas on how they can grow the digital economy. The theme for this year, or rather the Connected Summit, which happens annually, is a digital economy shaping the future for all. And this is what has been the conversation for the last couple of days, where we have been camping here just to give you what the preparations that have been going in anticipation for this event. And here is the D-Day. The official opening will be happening. The Cabinet Secretary for ICT, or rather for Information, Communication and Digital Economy, will be officiating the event. Later on, we'll be having the Prime Cabinet Secretary right here at the Connected Summit Kenya to also officiate the event. We'll be having speakers like the ICT Authority CEO Stanley Kamanguya telling us what he has for us and telling the innovators and the exhibitors who have set up here what is in store for them as they gear up for the digital era. Remember, technological trends are taking over the world, and we have to keep up in tandem with the global best practices, and conversations have to be talked about right here in this forum. And also later on, we'll be having conversations with some of the innovators. As my cameraman can show you here, we have some of the exhibitors who have set up right here, who showcase their products and services, as well as their innovations innovation to ensure that we kickstart the digital economy in the right way. If we can, Macamarian can show you, we have the AWS right here setting up. We also have the digital, the dimension data. We have the Silicon Overdrive. We have also the Adrian, or rather the Adrian. We have also the Checkpoint. There are so many innovators and exhibitors who have set up camp here just to showcase their products and services as they gear up for what is expected in the country. Remember, the Kenya Kwanza administration, led by that is President William Ruto, has focused on the ICT industry, and one of the key things that he has focusing on is digital transformation. He's also focusing on digital jobs as well as the digital superhighway. Remember, the government is planning to lay an additional 100,000 optic fiber cable, and this is happening across the country, and this is to ensure that they bring down the cost of data as well as bring down the cost of mobile, or rather the mobile services. Other thing that will be happening right here, conversations about government digitization of their services. The plan is to have about 5,000 government digital services digitized, and government spokesman, or rather policymakers, are right here in the conference just to speak about some of these things that are happening, or rather happening in the economy. And we'll be also having the data protection companies right here. Remember, data privacy is key when it comes to cybersecurity. Remember, we've been cases of hacking, we've been having cases of invasion of privacy, and the Data Protection Agency is here to just ensure that some of the data that you share with the people, with the public out there, or rather with companies out there, that it is protected and it's not shared with the third party. Well, that is what is happening right here in Diani at the Leisure Lodge. Dell Technologies also is setting up on the other end of this side. Also, the conference will be happening later on, and I'll be giving you details of what to expect today. Remember, we'll be here for the next 3 days. We'll be talking to various stakeholders, various ICT industry players who will be right here just to steer this conversation. Victor.
Before I let you go, what is the end game of this particular summit now that the Kenya Kwanza government is quite keen on digital transformation, and even the ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo is also keen on that as well? What are we likely to take home after the summit?
With the theme tilted on digital economy, endless opportunities shaping our future, the conversation here will be all about digitizing, will be all about having digital jobs. Remember, there are about 1.2 million youths right now who are ongoing or training across the country to be able to enhance and empower their digital skills so that they can be having digital jobs. And key players that are here have to ensure that they enable, the ICT is an enabler to ensure that some of these youths get some of these jobs, so that we do not have the ratio when it comes to the number of youths and the older people when it comes to job creation right here in the country. That's some of the things we should take home right here at the conference.
Caroline Njenga, thank you so much from Diani. All right, enjoy, have fun. For us in the CBD, it's also quite peaceful. It's a good Monday. Let's talk at the end of the summit. That is Caroline Njenga talking to us all the way from Kwale County. The Connected Summit happening there. That's going to be a 3-day event bringing all the stakeholders in the digital world. We need to get digital, all right? All right, Caroline Njenga right there. Coming back here in the studio, let me come back to you, Robert. As we are talking about the issue of, it was Meshmira, before I cut you. So the question I wanted to ask you, who is this afraid of the handshake? Are you afraid of the handshake? Let me start with you here.
Because I'm not in a clamor for one, really. Why would you ask me if I'm afraid of the handshake?
Okay, why would you be afraid of the handshake?
What I would be interested in is still the position the president gave yesterday, which is what we should be discussing. I've already on several occasions given my position on why I do not subscribe to that experiment in leadership. So for me, the president gave a position on the demands that were given by Raila Odinga. And what should be of our key concern is that this country can no longer continue with the protest we were having that saw loss of lives, destruction of property, and this consequently would lead us to anarchy. That's where I want us to focus on. But on matters of the handshake, I've already given my position. I'm neither of those principles. I have no clamor for, so I don't think I'm the right person to respond to that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, Robert, at the end of the day, we have a new constitution. But again, Wakili, you'll also get into this. Why hasn't the 2010 constitution stopped us from getting into the trenches?
No, I think that, you know, we can make all the good laws we want. It also depends on the people who are, you know, overseeing the implementations of the law. If people are not genuine, if people are not honest, you know, and if, you know, selfishness and greed takes precedence over, you know, statesmanship and patriotism, and that's why I said that instead of requiring our elected leaders to have degrees, please require them to go for NYS training for 6 months. You know, so they learn patriotism, they learn how to put the country first. Because all these processes, the senator last time here, you know, earlier on was saying that Raila, Kalonzo and Matakaru have been in politics way before she was born. You just saw the Speaker of the United States Congress retire almost in her 90s. You know, and you know, and that shows you, if you check on some of the very mature democracies, leaders, elected positions, they have very mature leaders in them. Doesn't mean that there's no space for the young people. There's space. But realize also that this country has been better through the process, negotiated processes. The IPPGs, you know, brought us, you know, the Rainbow Coalition government. You know, when we had the handshake between President Kibaki and Raila Odinga, when we had the handshake between Uhuru and Raila, and these processes, those periods, Kenya grew, the economy grew by leaps and bounds. The country was very stable. It means that the kind of democracy, the kind of ethnicized politics we are in now, we need a win-win for both sides. Sometimes people blame it on because of the constant presence of Raila Odinga, but you will realize when Raila is no longer in this political game at some point that he was the better statesman of all the politicians you'll ever get. If he was not selfish, this country would go to the dogs. Because even today, people are saying that he doesn't have evidence. The newspaper, the Star newspaper, has revealed clearly that he has said that he won by more than 8 million votes. You see, the new evidences are there. We have presented them. The people who don't understand and have not matured into the country's leadership well will think that he's very unreasonable. This is the most reasonable person you'll ever get. And he puts the country first. If he didn't put the country first, people would be in the street. If he didn't put the country first, his bodyguards would throw their firearms and fire the police who were trying to hurt him. If he didn't put the country first, the kind of demonstrations we witnessed last week would be more violent, because the young men who are very passionate about it, he would not tell them that peace. You saw the incident at Serena, where a supporter, one of the staffers in the president in Raila's convoy, was actually begging the police that we are trying to be peaceful. Please don't provoke us. Please don't fire tear gas at us. Please don't throw water at us. You know, even today we had plans where they wanted to pour some poisons on Raila Odinga. So, but you know, we are very happy that it has been called off.
That's a huge allegation and a grave allegation. Those are your sentiments, Robert.
Yes.
the sentiments, Robert.
And you've heard him.
Maybe inside the information we don't know.
He'll give us more information after
you heard Raila says that more than, you know, when he was addressing the press, he had counted 7, but when the day broke, we counted 10 bullet holes fired at his vehicle. You see?
Okay.
And that shows a personal, people were targeting in person. For somebody to fire the vehicle of Raila is not
I'll get, as we come to a close, I'll get to that. Why, as a nation, we cannot have a peaceful demonstration? Let me just call it a peaceful demonstration. But Wakili, The 2010 Constitution was supposed to cure some of these things that we are witnessing today. And 13 years on, we are still going back, the complete cycle. Tear gas, people going to the streets. We cannot petition as a nation. Kenyans cannot petition peacefully and get their grievances resolved amicably without protests. Why do you think the 2010 Constitution has not stopped us going to the trenches?
The only reason why we are not in the trenches, I would want to, very honestly, and this is my opinion, say is because of the magnanimity that we have from the person that is Raila Odinga. We would have been in the trenches long time ago if he would be the kind of person to take hardline stances. The thing that the 2010 Constitution never cured is the winner takes it all principle or mentality. In this country, when we have, and we've had over the years, a situation whereby our elections, just like in any other, democratic society, one would expect that there'll be a hotly contested election, insofar as the presidency is concerned. We experienced this in the year 2007. It wasn't any different in 2013. 2017 never, was all the same. And 2022 was a culmination of it all. There was a proposal to cure that anomaly in the 2010 Constitution during the BBI push. Remember, during the BBI, there were so many clauses that had been proposed that, but then at the center of it all was to cure this anomaly that we've had as a country, where after the election, the person who comes in second is nowhere in the in the organized leadership of the country. And that is what BBI tried to cure. It is the same thing that is, it is the same thing that we are experiencing right now.
Yes.
Someone loses an election, and there is no avenue that is provided for this person to have any political relevance until after another 5 years. Now, what happens? In politics, and I'm not a politician. One day in politics is way too long. What about 5 years? What happens in these 5 years? And so, moving forward, one must put in mechanisms to ensure that they remain politically relevant.
Yes.
Moving forward, so that when it comes to 2020, when it comes to the next election cycle, they are relevant. And it is something that even the deputy president, who is now our president, did. After the 2017 elections, he immediately started campaigning thereafter. And especially after the handshake, because he knew that if he doesn't keep that momentum, come 2022, he'll be politically relevant. And that is what is happening. So moving forward, that is one thing that we need to cure as a country, that we need to provide a space for someone who comes in second, most especially because our elections have been highly contested, for someone who comes in second to have some political leverage, to have something that he's holding on to as we wait for the next election hearings, for the next election cycle.
Okay. Senator, there's a question here somebody is putting, and I love how Kenyans are very keen. We have got online reporters and journalists. According to President Ruto, in summary, cost of living, tunashukisha, tunashughulikia, that's okay. Number 2, IBC, please go to parliament. Number 3, server, elections were credible and over. Handshake, in capital, it will not happen. But we can talk within parameters of constitution.
Correct.
What do you think?
That's correct. That's what the advocate has actually even mentioned here, that the issue of opening servers, from a legal stand view, that's hot air. You see? And I'm actually hoping this Raila Odinga lays bare whistleblower dossier, I hope they have presented this to IBC, because like I said, IBC is still doing their audit.
IBC is the culprit. We can't
of the 2022 election. And you can now see the demonstrations were not even about the cost of living. They were about opening the server.
There are three concerns.
But the major, it has now narrowed down to issues of opening the server, which you've heard from a legal view, that whatever that is happening there is trying to challenge the Supreme Court decision backdoor. What the listener there is saying is a correct statement, because the president has put several measures, like on the cost of living. He's embarked also on some of the long-term issues that will address the issues of like cost of living in agriculture. Now we are having farmers receiving the subsidized fertilizer.
Yes.
And it has gone down to mashinani. Now we are not having a farmer having to come to Nairobi or whatever. It's going to the nearest point there where they are getting it. And I'm happy the rains are back. Like in Kisii, people are on with farming. In fact, I didn't see maandamano in Kisii. People are very busy with planting and several other issues. On what the president said to be done within law, that's clearly what every other leader should be wanting in this country.
When the president said that he's open to all honest talks, what do you think he meant? I mean, when now you want to, read deeper into that statement.
You see, now I cannot want to read deeper than what he has said. We can only interpret what he came out and read from State House,
yes,
which is very open in the public now. The president said, if we are going to do this within the Constitution, please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Because that is what he swore to defend.
Okay.
But wanting to read more than what is out in public domain, not unless I'm a prophet, which I'm not.
I don't know whether Robert is also a prophet, but when he said that he's open and he's had several talks with, several people, and when he said several people, he said over the past 6 or 7 months,
yes,
he's
exactly.
had, a lot of talks. That would mean international community, the faith-based organizations, elected and appointed leaders. So it means that his office is quite busy.
Yes, yes.
That means that the president is quite aware of what's happening within, the fence of Kenya, the jurisdiction of our country. He is so much aware. But when he said that he's open to honest talks, Robert, what do you think the president meant?
I think the president was opening the server, because opening the server is not a literal. What I think the president has done, he has basically opened the server, because opening the server here is not opening the physical server or the ICT servers as we know them. The demand of opening the server is, let's audit the last election. What really happened in the transmission of results? Because we vote well, we don't have problems with the MCA, with the governors, with the MPs, because they are announced there. But when results are taken to the National Tallying Center, something happens hapo katikati and they change. So let's audit that process. That's opening the servers we want. It is not opening, there's no single server which is going, because we know that as long as you left some of these IBC workers in charge of these servers, they have already messed their evidence. But let's review internally what we did at IPPG. And we came up and we say that let's include everybody, because the election, like I said, this election, these 5 years elections give Kenyans a reassurance that if I lose now, in 5 years, I can try my luck, even if I don't agree with the results. And that's very important for the peace of this country. The moment you take that away, this country can degenerate into anarchy, and that's not something that we should, we should play with. It can be, bad, like, people are saying, Kenyans are everywhere. You have cases in Nairobi, cases in Murang'a, cases, you have Luos, every part of this country, you have Kikuyus, every part of this country. The country should not degenerate into a situation where people now want to fight each other because of elections. And that's what the president and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, has seen and said that let's now open for dialogue and let's listen to each other with unclenched fist. And the president, having reviewed all it was very interesting to see the president in Germany, no hardline stance. The president arriving into the country, trying to review. You saw the body language arriving at the JKIA. And after that, I think apart from that, American Chamber of Commerce, where the extremist U.S. ambassador was, one of the big derailers of the process of reconciliation in this country. But when she was called out, her country sent out a senator who I think played a better role in ensuring that people calmed and retreated from their hardline positions, and eventually I think we...
Okay, there's another person here, Chimoto Magera, says that by saying yes, I'm ready to listen. Raila has committed himself to peace and the rule of law. If he breaks the peace, who do you think comes out of this looking bad?
Raila is the most peaceful guy. I don't think that he will ever break the peace.
And who is coming out this place looking bad?
Nobody's coming out looking bad. Nobody's coming out looking better than the other one. Yes.
Okay. Wakili, the issue of server. Where's the position of the court and IBC? Can the court tell IBC to open the service?
No.
Quite literally.
No. Just like the good senator said. You know, there is a foregone conclusion. There are no servers that are ever going to be opened. Remember that under Article 250 of the Constitution, it provides for commissions and independent independent bodies. That is the Auditor General and the other one. They don't take instructions from anyone. They are supposed to, the Constitution ordains them to perform their functions as has been stipulated to them by the Constitution and the relevant guiding legislation. The Supreme Court had an opportunity of giving those orders as and when the petition was filed and during that hearing process. Once that was done, whatever it is that the IBC is going to do will be well within their mandate to execute without necessarily taking orders from anywhere. We cannot reopen that which we have already concluded. So we are not going that direction, and that is why I've said that Raila Amolo Odinga realizes that. He knows that quite too well, and that is why he is going with all these extra legal and extra constitutional means to ensure that then he achieves something out of it. So, and that is why he is coming in with this push of Mandamano, just to try and push the government to ensure that he gets something out of it. Let me tell you that a handshake from today moving forward is something that is inevitable. It is only, the only thing that we are supposed to be talking is what are the parameters of this handshake. But then a handshake, for the sake of this country, and if you look at the demeanor of the president yesterday, it is something that is inevitable. The only thing that we are going to be asking ourselves is how do we structure that handshake?
I don't think Senator is happy hearing that.
No, and that is what is going to happen. It is a discussion that we are having today. It is a discussion that that you are going to invite us, me and Senator, some other time, let's say a year from now, and we are going true to my word. You will realize that we are going to have a handshake. The only thing that is the only thing that will be, you know, will be at variance will be how will the handshake be different from the handshake that was there between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. But then we are going to have a handshake of sorts. Whether it means a handshake in deliberating how we are going to conduct our elections moving forward, whether it is a handshake on on an overhaul of our ICT system around the the elections, and they are going to agree on something. They are going to sit down. When they sit down to have a conversation, that is a handshake by itself. So it is something that we are not going to run away from. It is only a handshake that is going to bring peace into this country. And like I've said, if we are going to follow the letter and spirit of the Constitution and the laws around the elections of this country, we are not going to achieve anything. And trust me, if there is one thing that is going to solve all these things, and you're going and you'll realize even as we move forward, it will be the issue of restructuring the way we handle our elections moving forward. It is something, it is an agitation that we have had over the years. It is something that is on the table. In fact, it is at the center of everything that is being agitated for by the opposition.
Senator?
I would want to respond a bit. The issue about servers, I think when Kenyans came out in numbers to vote for whoever they wanted as their president, they did so. And we were making use of Form 34As, which were the lowest level at the polling station. And it is assumed that those results given by Form 34A are final because they are done and declared at the presence of all the agents, beginning from the presidential agent, member of parliament, all those positions being voted for. And the whole Mandamano issue, it's a circus that will actually never end because this is a course being done by someone who's very used to rebelling. Look at this. We had a repealing of Section 2A. It happened. We need multi-party politics. It happened. Moi must go. Moi went. We need a new Katiba. We had a new constitution. Isaac Hassan must go. He went. Elections are illegitimate. They were cancelled. Repeat the elections. They boycotted. Surely. This story is never ending, and it's what we are now seeing. We will not go to that same chapter again that we have experienced in the past years, and that's why the president is very clear. Even his statement is, the president is not being clear now because he's president. He's always been someone who's very conversant with issues, even before he became president. He's been within this terrain for quite some time. So when he actually comes up and reads such a statement that we should operate within our constitution, he actually knows what we are talking about. The moment you give loophole, any other person then would wake up today, and because they're not happy with the result, you know, they'll go to the streets and demand that we now want to be in government. Yeah.
You know, Robert, at the end of the day, Raila said that at the end of the day, after 1 week, if nothing is done, they'll still go back to the street. They still call for the street.
We are still going back to the streets. We'll call for Mandamano if the reforms have not been realized.
1 week is too short.
Yeah, 1 week is too short. But it's, you know, some of the things, most of the things, these things are very obvious. They are very simple to do. You know, my biggest gripe with the president's statement yesterday was that he was just not able to say that I want, like he insisted before the elections, that there should be very clear lines between the oppositions and the government. Why do you have to buy these opposition MPs? Immediately after the elections, you saw the UDM over in the Nairobi County Assembly. We have had more than 4 fights because the MCAs, they want to have the majority. Because Azimia has the majority and they have the executive. So they are so worried that 4 times they have attempted to make MCAs cross. Is that the dynamics inside there in the County Assembly of Nairobi is very hard for them to achieve that without a clear fight. But you see, like, even if you leave out the partner parties, which sometimes their leaders decide to get bought. But what do you do with the ODM MPs who just decided that they are now going to be loyal to Kenya Kwanza or UDA, while ODM sponsored them? If they want to be loyal, we don't refuse. You know, it's their choice. But please resign. Please resign. I wish the president just said yesterday that I want the opposition MPs to go back to their camps. If you are elected in ODM, go back to your camp. If you are in Jubilee, please go back to your camp. You see, so that we don't have this fight. When we are fighting, it is not us leaders who are losing. It is the Kenyan, the common man who is losing. I wish that the president did some of these things. And you know, like I was telling you before, when Raila will no longer be part of the political process in this country, Kenyans will realize the kind of you know, gentleman and statesman we had, who some of these hardline stances is being, if it was somebody else in the position of Raila, this country will be burning. Country will be in a civil war because they will be fighting for the positions which they believe they won. But they are not doing that because Raila, with the resources, with the kind of influence he has never misused it to take the country to the dogs. I can tell you, we were part of the campaigns for the 2022 elections. The Raila was very good, was very close to the president. If somebody else was close to the president, he'd be sitting there. But because Raila insisted that I don't want a contested process, I don't want people to lay claim to my win, please don't do anything illegal for me to assume power. And that's why he lost. Because the people he trusted and believed, you know, got bought and crossed over to the other camp, and now we have an illegal man as president.
All right. Okay.
Yes. Can I?
Okay.
Yes. Can I see?
Within 1 week, we'll decide whether we recognize. You know, we are still, it's a free country. And the good thing, let me tell you one thing. I was very happy to listen to the president yesterday, because we call him the president, but we know we have issues with his win. The president was very clear that whatever you say, whatever you do in the media, you know, as somebody who operated that space, and we faced a lot of, more than 38 cases during the President Uhuru's regime. I think it's very interesting to see the president saying that I will not go to the extent of trying to shut down the media. But I think that one was a little bit...
It was a sigh of relief even to us.
It was a sigh of relief, but the personal targeting of journalists, tear gassing their country, then closing, tear gassing their cars and closing the door. you know, seeing the kind of Eric Kisinta injuries Kina Eric Kisinta got, it was very scary to see that.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody saying that Cedric Candy says that, and so he's now the president. I see. Okay, Robert. He's not the president. Okay. All right. Wakili, we have, just before you answer that, politicians will always have their space, but there is one person that we are forgetting, the voter, the Wanjiku. What does Wanjiku want? You know, tear gas here, politicians will have, you know, boardroom discussions and here and there, deals will be brokered left, right and center. But where's the space of Wanjiku?
The space of Wanjiku, I would want to start, I would want to answer that question by focusing on Article 1 of the Constitution, and especially Article 1.3 of the Constitution that says that, you know, representation of persons can either be done directly or through, you know, through elected leaders. And the elected leaders are here with me. And so there is a general presumption that whatever it is that the persons who we elected speak is actually what is the interest of the voter. We all can't can't be on the we all can't be on the negotiating table. We all can't you know, go to State House and have a conversation with, you know, with the president and so on and so forth. And so there is a general presumption that whatever it is that we, the elected leaders, the persons that we elected to all different political positions, whatever it is that they are going to, you know, that they are going to air, is actually the voice of the people. So that is what we get insofar as the voice of the people is concerned. And you realize, and that is what even the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is, you know, is leaning on. When he says that we are not going to have we are going to have Monday as a holiday and people will go to that people will go to Mandamano. You see thousands of people coming out to the, you know, coming out to the streets. He is trying to legitimize his position as you know, as the leader of the people, or the leader of the people who've been elected by the voter. So that when, for instance, today we had Raila calling for Mandamano and no one shows up for that Mandamano, there is a presumption that he's not, you know, that he's not speaking the voice of the people. But then when he calls for the people and people come out in large numbers, and they, you know, and they protest on Monday and protest on Thursdays, then there is a general presumption that actually he is actually carrying the aspirations of these people, and that is why when he calls to them, or you know, when he calls upon them to come out in large numbers on Mondays and on Thursdays, they actually come out. But even more importantly, let me just try and respond. I know our time is limited.
Go ahead.
To what Senator talked about. If you look at the tone of the people around or in Kenya Kwanza, as compared to the tone of the leadership, or rather the leader of Kenya Kwanza, that is the president, they're actually at variance. It is like they're serving as the, you know, bad cop, good cop philosophy. Where these are the people will come, you know, the Refugee and Kimani Ichung'wah will come up with very hard stands and, you know, and just, you know, throw their sentiments left, right and center. But then now when the president comes in, he comes in as this composed person who is, you know, who is a leader, who is out to unite the country and so on and so forth. If we go with the tone with which Kimani Ichung'wah and Refugee and even my good friend the senator here is approaching these negotiations, we are not going to realize anything. Absolutely nothing. You know, you can't get to the negotiating table with threats and calling people names. It will never realize anything. You must get to the negotiating table with some level of sobriety. You get in with, you know, with a listening ear. What does this person want? And it is only after doing that is when we can realize anything. Two, if you get to the negotiating table and you have cards hidden under the table, it will as well not realize anything, and especially not on the person of Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is not the kind of person that you use the carrot and stick philosophy. You don't use that on him. You promise him this, and then you know, with a hidden agenda. Remember, he's been in politics for quite a while. All these tricks that you may want to play on him are not they are not things that are very unique or are, you know, that are very new to him. If he intends to achieve a particular purpose, and he has shown this over the years, he has a more than 90% success rate of whatever he wants to achieve.
Okay.
So what I would want to urge both sides of the divide, both government and, as the president said yesterday, our friends on the other side, is that let them get very honestly on this negotiating table with very open arms.
Yeah.
What do they want? But then if they're going to be playing, all these cat and mouse games, we are going to see Robert Alai and his team back to the streets next week.
I hope that's not going to happen. We need to come to work and enjoy our food.
I just wanted to remind Wakili that the sovereign power of the people, as per Article 1(2) of the Constitution, can be directly or through elected leaders.
You've taught Wakili something.
Yes, so we are doing it directly if the elected leaders are trying to be bought off the other side.
I hope, Senator, you are not also going to the negotiating table with the guns blazing.
I actually want to respond to what...
but as you do that, what do you think Wanjiku wants as we come to a close?
Wanjiku wants to go back to their normal businesses of the day. They do not want learning disrupted. They do not want their businesses burnt down. So that Kenyans are generally hardworking people. And this government is creating an enabling environment for business people to thrive, while others want to burn it down and then govern over ashes, which is a very wrong turn of events we are witnessing. So Wanjiku wants to get direct health care at the lowest level that are the counties we are actually pushing for.
Yeah.
Those are the issues people want to listen to. Young people want to know what is in place for them to have jobs. They do not want to put sufuria on their head because of maandamano. So in responding to what the advocate was talking about, that Raila Odinga comes to the street to represent the elected people. I think Kenyans made a decision in the past election. They came to the ballot and voted for William Ruto as their president. So this other issue of someone purporting to speak on behalf of elected leaders, they actually voted for their MCA, like Honorable Alai here. They voted for their member of parliament, their senator, their woman representative, and the president, who, even when those results were disputed, they went to the Supreme Court, which ruled. And you've heard there's no possibility of opening those servers. You see?
Okay.
So let's get our things right. The president has an agenda of working to fulfill his manifesto. He's already laid down several plans, one of which I told you affects farmers. They are getting subsidized fertilizer, which would interest me as a Kenyan this morning. And eventually I'm very happy that Azimio actually decided to reason and suspend maandamano, because it was generally hurting the economy in which them themselves exist. Yes.
All right. Okay. And Robert Alai, I hope we'll be back here sometimes next week to take stock of what really happened. That your ward, Kilelesha ward, was worst affected by the noise pollution from the neighboring, is it joints or hotels or restaurants?
Yes.
What have you done so far on that?
No, we have created an environment. We have moved.
It was worst affected in Nairobi.
Yeah, we moved a motion to ensure that we regulate the kind of noise you get in residential areas, but also because we realize that Nairobi is growing. Kitambo used to have shopping centers, but they're disappearing because some of the places like Kilelesha doesn't have a proper shopping center, which you can call a central shopping centers, because all this vice economy were to be centered around the shopping centers. So what we are going to create is that, you saw the action of the governor last week, we are going to create entertainment districts, areas reserved for such kind of activities. If you want nightclubs, we say that the whole of Koinange Street we reserve for nightclubs. We reserve parts of industrial area around Baricho Road, parts of Westlands. We say we reserve for entertainment joints. And the people have complained. There was a lot of noise, there was a lot of resistance, closing business down. The Kenya Kwanza hardliners really threatened us, told us how we are anti-business. But we told them that sometimes people are used to problems. You are so used to problems, mpaka you have not known a better life outside there. If you go to those slums, you see mothers who have left the feces of their kids, you know, the waste of their kids outside. When you ask them, they are saying, wewe unaona mtoto ameenda choo, lakini mimi naona ni mtoto ameshiba. Wow. Hiyo ni kuzoea shida. Wow. So we don't want people be used to the noise pollution. Okay. We are going to make them ensure, and we are going to create quiet rooms so that you go to some areas near hospitals, near schools, near religious centers. We know that there's a problem in some religious centers where making noise.
And finally, the issue of insecurity in Kileleshwa is one thing. I mean, yes. People being mugged in broad daylight. That's the whole of Nairobi. That's the whole of Nairobi. We wish that, you know, because the officers who are terrorizing us, especially the 5 officers who are terrorizing us in the demonstrations, lead the anti-mugging squad, the Alpha Mike squad. We are going to ensure that they go back to the anti-mugging and they stop going after the demonstrations.
I would be happy if they actually went to the streets because of insecurity in Kileleshwa.
Again, we are going to the street because of the stabbing of an MCA in Malava.
Yeah, that's
but generally, we actually want a media that is objectively, you know, criticizing. I don't think anyone wants media to be cheerleaders in whatever that is happening. Yeah.
Imagine this is a government platform. This would not happen some years back. But we are happy to see it in KCB.
Sorry for another day. I think as a media we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And to my colleagues in the profession, we still pray for you. We've personally have covered demonstrations before. It's not quite something good. And we just pray that moving forward, something will be done. As to what the President said yesterday, that the freedom of media will be protected. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much. We've been speaking to Esther Ekenyuru, who is nominated Senator, Robert Alai, member of County Assembly, Nairobi County, representing Kileleshwa Ward, and Wakili Biko Ashoya, who is an advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much for coming to the show. And you as a viewer, you know, you've given us your time listening to us. For those who've sent their comments on social media, asante sana. We're taking a break, but Good Morning Kenya continues after this. Good morning.
I want to take this opportunity to invite Kenyans to the Connected Summit that we will be hosting in Diani at the coast this coming week. This is an integral forum that enables all integral stakeholders within the ICT industry to come together so that as members of the ICT fraternity, we determine the challenges that we are facing, the opportunities available, and the necessary interventions that we need to introduce to facilitate optimal uptake of the opportunities available for us as a country.
I felt so guilty that I decided to confess everything to her.
Did she believe that?
Mm-hmm. She believes it for now.
I forgive you. I once told you whatever mistake you make in this life, I will always forgive you. I really meant that.
Who are you? Are you Charlene or Jenny? Who are you?
Harvey, listen to me.
Be honest with me.
Take on Tech, a weekly program that brings you technological debates and concepts. Let us assume we have a young innovator who has come up with an app.
Financial technology and financial services is a very complex game.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news both locally and internationally. Apple has lost its position as the most valuable firm amid tech sellers. We also explore different innovations by our very own young innovators. Make sure you don't miss. Tune in every Monday at 10:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
With girls and women at the center stage globally, are boys and men under siege? A 130 kilometers from Kenya's capital, Nairobi, lies Ndonyonjero in Nyandarua County. We arrive at Kiambareki village in North Kinangop where he resides. Our quest is to meet 45-year-old James Kibe. Kibe, a reformed alcohol and drug addict. Kibe narrates how the once church boy lost track in 2010 and started heading a very dangerous path.
The school that I was posted, I found the people there were very much happy about taking alcohol, but they could tell me that I am supposed to take anything that has been created by God. With that chupa of the pombe, there are those drawings of Barry. So people could ask me, how can God create this Barry? And then you refuse to eat. So it started like mchezo. So I found myself in it.
His love for alcohol and drugs affected his work tremendously.
Sometimes I could be arrested, taken to the cell. Then it's only the parent could come there, and also the nurse people. So I was almost going home.
His change of behavior became the talk of his village, and a once social young man retreated to isolation, and his company became the local drinking dens.
Whenever one is in alcoholism, standing for a family is a hard thing. Not many wives can withstand that kind of a behavior. So my wife could not tolerate that. So she decided to leave. And in fact, she left me with a young boy who was taken care by the grandmother at home.
With no major responsibility, the one thing that would have helped keep him sober, his teaching profession, was at stake.
Tulikuwa tukiona kama hataishi. Sababu alikuwa amekunywa pombe kama, yani alikuwa amejulikana. Even family tulikuwa na shida. Tukimwanza ni maombi hapa, tunamuombea, tunamtafuta pale alipo.
Alikuwa ameisha kabisa. Alikuwa amekonda kabisa. Hata ungesema ni mtu ameshaingia kwa darasa. Alikuwa amekuwa yani ni mchafu. Hata nguo saa zingine hata ananunua, siku nyingine anauza. Anavaa zingine sio mzuri, hata akiwa kwa shule uwezi ona tena ni mwalimu.
His behavior broke his parents' hearts.
Alikuwa kwanza mwenyewe aliharibu mwili, nikapata damu yangu ikakimbia. Mafikiria ya kulala au rest kulala, kufikiri maneno ya kijana yangu.
But how did he turn a new leaf?
It was a very tough journey because now I gave my parents another burden. A young child being taken care of, and also myself. the alcohol kills the memory in somebody, you forget about all the problems. You think that you are killing the stress in you, but you end up having more stress whenever you indulge yourself in alcoholism. So it was a great burden. And in fact, whatever made me even feel good when I joined the boy child, they were very much concerned, even for my son.
Kibe has been sober for the past 5 years.
Sasa aliwacha pombe kabisa. Tangu siku hiyo hata leo hawezi kunywa pombe.
Since I stopped that kind of behavior, and also it has really changed financially, even socially.
How are you?
He has gone to teaching full-time at Ndonyo Njeru Primary School.
Let's start with AIDS, IV, and AIDS. Isn't it?
Experts opine showing love and support to people struggling with any form of addiction is key in their recovery process.
Whenever you do good to somebody, it's going to come back to you in double. It's a bigger part of what helps me to reach out to other people, because if you develop other people, at one time or the other, what you did to other people is going to come back to you. If you go back to the Bible, if you are busy building other people's lives, God is also busy building your life.
Those people that really care about him, like a childhood friend or a cousin, would agree to sit down and listen that this person is now sick. This is what this person now needs. They need to abstain from drugs and alcohol. They're trying to change their lives.
Kibe uses his free time to give back to the community by mentoring young boys and men.
Tumefurahi kwa hii mpango, imetusaidia si wakati hatupo shuleni, si ukuja hapa kucheza mpira. Imetufunza mambo mengi kwamba tusijiingize na madawa za kulevya.
I joined a church whereby we have been assisting one another by my pastor. Even the community is very much positive about me. Also, the boy child has assisted me to be one of the facilitators in schools, in colleges. They have been giving the platform to go and tell the gospel about stopping from these bad behaviors of alcoholism and drugs.
The now new Leaf applauds patron for coming in handy.
I have reconnected by myself, and soon I'll be having a wedding whereby I will invite you, and God is so good.
There is light at the end of the tunnel for any alcoholic and drug abuse person if they receive family and community support. Ruth Wamboi reporting for KBC from Ndonyo Njeru Primary School in the county of Nyandarua.
Exactly 4 minutes past the top of the hour. You're right on time for our second and last conversation this Monday morning. And we look at refugee integration. That is what forms center of our conversation for the next 15 minutes. Just looking at where we are as a country as far as this integration is concerned. Looking at it also from the human rights perspective, and also exploring the new Refugee Act. To what extent is it a departure from what was in 2006, as well as just what community-based organizations are doing in respect to the same. I have created FaceTime with Ayan Mohamud, who's a project manager at Tawakal, community-based organization to my farthest right. Right next to her is Fabian Oriri, a refugee rights lawyer, and also Damaris Onyancho, program advisor at Kenya Human Rights Commission, KHRC. Ladies and gentlemen, karibu to the program.
Thank you so much.
Let me just latch on this particular conversation with you, Ayan, just very quickly. Tawakal, the CBU.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about it.
And actually, Tawakal is a community-based organization, but we actually work with the refugees. Most and like 70% are refugees. And we actually started this program when around 2014, 2015, when actually the undergoing of the terrorists and everything. Yeah. So we actually wanted to educate the refugees how countering violence and extremism, not to be part of those acts and those ideologies. So actually it's just a platform for the refugees to exchange ideas, to talk about their issues and their problems they are facing. And actually we work with the women and girls because most are the survivors of GBV. So we actually do counseling for them. I'm a counselor, I'm a psychological counselor. So we actually talk to the young refugees, girls and survivors of GBV. So it was never easy for a refugee to come and talk about and express themselves. But actually we have programs like people with disabilities programs, we have women empowerment programs, we have youth in inclusion programs. So now actually we came very far, and it was never easy. So that's when Tawakal has started around 2014, 15, yeah.
So this is like 9 years.
Yeah.
And of course we'll come to track the progress therein, and again just this tying with your own story, because you came to Kenya at the age of 7 as a refugee. You also tell us how that was. But before then, Damaris, when you talk about integration, just basically help us understand what exactly are we saying. I mean, I was just telling all of you earlier that when someone would assume and say that by the time you're leaving your host or mother country and you're coming to Kenya, either to Dadaab or Kakuma, whatever camp it is, I mean, we already picked you enough. So when you say integration, just what exactly are we talking about? What is this?
Integration for me is having this refugee. This is a person who left their home. They had plans, they had a lot, and basically their life was just going on as normal. They had just bought property, they were doing laundry, something, and then just all of a sudden there is conflict, there is a militia, there is either the government is hunting them down, and they have to leave everything down and, run for it. And when they come, they are expecting, at the bare minimum to experience some bit of human rights. So for them, being integrated is just them being well settled as well as possible with dignity. It's them having an access to education, them being able to, get health services without a problem, food, being self-reliant, being able to make decisions just on their own. I remember in 2015 in Dadaab refugee camp, I met this elderly Somali guy, and he comes and he has his thesis, his master's thesis in agriculture, and he comes with the books to the office and he asks me, what do I do with this? He's studied up to master's level, but there's nothing he can do. He's limited to the camps. Sometime late 2019, I met another man. He had been in Kenya before as a foreign national. He was here 2010, 2011 doing his master's and MBA in the University of Nairobi. And during then he was able to do consultancies, statistics, economics. He was able to move around the country. He was making money as he was studying. He had a company running back home in DRC. 2014, he's attacked. He's a Banyamulenge. The other, ethnic clashes happen. He runs to Kenya with his family, and he comes, and it's different. As a refugee, it's different. It's not like being a foreign national. He doesn't have certificates, or even if he has them, he does not have access to employment. And for him, the biggest depression he had was, I see young men being able to work. Where I come from, I'm a provider, but I'm not able to provide for my family as I used to. This is a person who has an MBA now selling vitenge on the streets. They wake up every morning and walk miles and miles selling vitenge. So integration for me is when this person comes, the rights, a people-centered approach, the rights that they are able to have, are they able to move around? Are they being self-reliance. Self-reliance is just being able to make so many decisions. I remember we were talking earlier and we were saying, yes, you're in the camps, you're given food every day, but I would just want to decide what I want to have for dinner and what I want to have for lunch.
Well, someone will argue
if I'm just being given beans every day.
Someone will argue, Damaris, by the time I am hosting you, it's just a classical example, just like if you're coming to my house and I'm hosting, why would you be having a choice?
I think it's just dignity.
It's dignity, you say.
It's dignity as a person. If where I come from as a Kisii, I'm used to eating matoke. All of a sudden, I'm in a refugee camp and every day I'm given beans and maize. I'm already a survivor of violence. I have seen a lot. Most of these refugees I've interviewed, I interviewed this one young man. He left his country when he was 80 years old. He doesn't remember much. All he remembers is seeing dead bodies along the road when they were walking on foot, living. And they walked really long distances, getting, they get on a lorry when they find the lorries that, come from DRC to Kenya in some places, and some places they have to walk. But such a person who comes in and you take them already to this harsh climate area in a refugee camp, they don't immediately have access to education to continue with their dreams, which may be something that may change their lives eventually. Really, I don't know. I'll just say is giving this person dignity and having a human rights-centered approach in the management of refugees, and not just looking at security and yes, security is important, but can we just have them dignified?
I hear you. And of course, it's important for me to ask some of these questions because, well, there's so many assumptions surrounding, refugees and just basically what integration means. But Fabian, you hear all this, and just going from the examples that Damaris is telling us, even for people who really have the papers, I should say, but they really can't do anything much. They don't have the documentation. They can't get that gainful employment. The new act is providing for things such as this ones. Where are we with this new act since it took effect in February last year? 14 months later, where are we?
I think it will be fair for me to lay some basis for the new act. It's quite a unique act in Kenya. And it's not just to be read at the Refugee Act number 10 of 2021. It's an act which expressly incorporates international laws and regional laws. Actually, the long title of the act is to give effect to 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol and its 1969 Convention on Matters Governing Refugees in Africa, the OAU Convention. So it's an act which is quite robust. It gives an avenue to go beyond just the express words in those few sections and try to shift further what does the OAU provide in solving the refugee crisis in Kenya. And indeed, it's true that if the act is to be implemented fully, it's not yet there. If it's going to be implemented fully with the requisite and proper political goodwill, governance goodwill, and all public shaping goodwill, shaped opinions, then we're going to see Kenya being a house, a powerhouse to shift the refugee practice, not only in Africa, but also in the world. So the implementation and what maybe my two sisters have alluded to is that the Refugee Act provides quite segmented approaches. I usually classify them to three. The realization of economic rights, and that's what we've been stressing on, right to work. That right should be there, and everybody should be given a right to work. And if there is any systematic bureaucracies which limit those rights, then we should be having an honest conversation to it. There's also some social aspect.
Just before you go to social, Fabian, I mean, let's just stick on that economic bit for a moment, because, I mean, if you are not empowered in that aspect, especially if you are used to this in your mother country, then really there's nothing much you can do. And we are getting examples from, both what Ayan and Damaris are saying. So, and you're saying that we need that goodwill, for instance, because you're saying not so much has been done so far. So really, what is happening? What is hampering this to take effect?
Let me I will give some few examples and to illustrate that, the economic rights. One key issues which refugees are battling is the right to work. But you see, it might sound so simple, and you may ask, what is the problem?
Yeah, because I was about to, what is the problem? I mean,
yeah.
What's the problem?
So the genesis is just being an honest conversation that under the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Act of 2011, it created, under its regulation, it created a classification, Class M work permits, that refugees, for them to work, they must have Class M work permit. Now the problem is accessing those Class M work permit. I can tell you for sure, it's now more than 12 years. If the statistics are out, we are having less than maybe 10,000 refugees who have been, not even 10,000, 5,000 refugees who have been in work permits in a population of more than 700, almost 700 refugees. So the problem is that a refugee might be qualified to work. He might even get a letter of employment to work. But you see, the employer will ask, okay, now you have, you are competent, but show me the work permit. And then he goes to apply for the work permit. It becomes all chaos. How work permits are issued in Kenya, and Class M specific, they're actually, to me, in my very understanding, they're the source of discrimination. Because the issuer, who is the immigration department, somehow treats a refugee by default like a foreign national. But you see, a refugee is a sui generis person, a unique person. He's not like somebody just who came from Uganda to come here. He's somebody who fled under specific circumstances, who is having a lot of problems because he fled his country.
So when you say, just allow me to butt in for purpose of clarification and to understand, so when you say that a refugee is being treated as a foreigner, does it mean that they get the same form of identification, or what is this?
Usually in the issues of work permits for foreigners, foreign nationals, there are some categories of qualification which they must be subjected to. The problem is using the same standards to a foreign national on a refugee.
All right.
And giving a blind eye to some unique features which should be given an accord to refugees. But my point is, on this, because I'm more interested in the, the solution being provided by the Refugee Act 2021.
Yes.
In my honest understanding of that act, the act expressly provides the right to work. Under that act.
It's well cut out.
It's well cut out. Actually, it's an express, to me, is an absolute right. The only thing which the Refugee Act provides that, okay, you work, but should you not remit taxes, then you're creating an offense. But not that you working is an offense. So what we're having is disharmony between the Kenya Citizenship Immigration Act and the new Refugee Act. So unless you have an honest conversation with a Class M work permit, as I said, they are becoming a source of discrimination. Should we do away with them and then empower the refugee ID, so that as long as a refugee who has undergone the refugee status determination, which is quite a rigorous process to be given that refugee status, we empower that refugee ID, that once a refugee has that ID, he automatically can work. So he can go to employment, they say, I'm a refugee, these are my documentation issued by the Kenyan government. Please, let me work. But know that you have the refugee ID, get employment, and you're being told, go get us Class M work permit, which getting it is a problem. And trust me, it is a problem when I say that.
It is a problem. You've been...
Yeah, all I just want to add to what he's saying. There's also the argument that, especially for the refugees who have been born here, so you have been through the same education system, the same curriculum, everything as a Kenyan. So ideally, there is no special or some specific skills or experiences you're bringing outside that a Kenyan does not have. So then the question remains, why should you apply for a work permit?
Yet you're born here, much as your parents came in as refugees.
Yes, you're basically part of this country. You're not a foreign national coming from Norway to come work. You have been in this system from the beginning.
I hear you. So clearly, I mean, just already from what you're enumerating, a lot needs to be done. But Ayan, what was your story? I mean, when you came to the country, 7 years, you can barely remember much.
Yeah, true.
But just for you to be seated here, to even have a CBO, clearly you are Kenyan right now. That integration, how was it for you just moving to the point that now you are a Kenyan? We can't say that you are a refugee anymore.
No, I'm a refugee.
You still
actually.
are?
Yeah, I do have that status.
You still do have the status?
Yeah, and actually I have seen it and I have been discriminated with my alien ID. Actually, I don't see the...
So you don't have the...
Yeah, I do have this kind of
ID?
No, I don't have a
you
Kenyan
have the alien ID.
Yeah, I have
regardless.
the alien ID. Yeah, regardless of learning, going to high school, university, and everything. But I have this alien ID, and actually it doesn't even help me. I didn't carry. The gateman said, "Where is your ID?" I said, "It's useless. I can't carry my ID everywhere."
So what did you show him?
Because I didn't show him anything. I just expressed myself, and then we talked.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. Yeah, I came in. You know, the alien ID we have, it looks like just a Kenyan ID, but it just wrote here, refugee alien ID. And there is a scenario that happened to me. I show it to a policeman. He said, "What is this?" They don't even know. The government itself, they issue the ID, and the government itself, most of them, they don't know what is this.
So what
you can't work. So we just took it just for fun. I don't know, but you can't get bank and account, and you can't register in banks. M-Pesa. I actually registered with my cousin's ID in my M-Pesa. You know, it actually feels so weird. And when I talk about the work and the work permit M-Class, when my colleague was saying is that this work permit, actually you can't even process. He said 5,000 refugees has applied, but when I came across many refugees, they have this kind of issue, because I know a guy who works in Eastleigh. He has a business. Imagine, he actually he went and he went every time to issue a work permit, but he never did get. He has to provide for his family. He has things, and he wants to survive. He's an urban refugee. If you're an urban refugee, your NHCR will never give you anything, food and shelter and everything. You won't get anything. So
urban refugee means you're not living in the country?
Yeah, actually, you're in urban refugee means that you're actually stable. You can help yourself. So he actually went to approach his friend. I want to work. I have this kind of money, but I just want to open a business, but I can't process. Help me. Give me a business permit. You know, he actually registered through his friend in order to survive. You know, it's not easy. And actually a refugee and challenge extend beyond mere adoption. Much of this comes with, they have a lot of challenges. They flee from their country, and coming to our host communities, you feel like you'll see weird stuff. Like I have seen many girls marrying a Kenyan man to be a citizen. You know, maybe it's not even your...
So you're tying your life just for citizenship.
To get a citizenship.
It is that bad.
Yeah, it's that bad. So I don't think most of people comprehend and actually understand the issues of a refugee is facing. This person actually, most of them actually experienced seeing their maybe mother or father being tortured. Most of them actually, you know, they have seen weird stuff that actually people can't actually comprehend beyond. So it's not easy, and it was never been easy for a refugee. And actually say it's not easy. I can't work. I'm a psychologist, but I can't go for a place to work for it.
So that's why you do your training then?
I did my training through and because I have a high school certificate.
From Kenya?
Yeah, from Kenya. That's why my aunt helped me apply for birth certificate. I got a birth certificate. I needed to get an ID, a citizen ID, but my father is not a Kenyan, my mother is not a Kenyan. It became very hard for me. That's why I dropped that thing to be a Kenyan, then I became a refugee.
So then just let me backtrace a bit. You have schooled in Kenya, or from
primary,
years, up until your higher learning to do psychology. What documentation did you use to even just go to school?
No, I didn't use a documentation. I got actually a scholarship. A Duffy scholarship. So I got scholarship. That's why I started learning for psychology. But it was not easy because you have to provide a Kenyan's ID in order you to start a university, you know, and it's not easy. So there is this kind of this organization actually help you through, do like an education and everything. They do the process and everything that you'll just go with their card and you'll get you can learn.
So that's how you're able to do this without any documentation, without any Kenyan ID. But then how did you also open the CBO? Is there anything that was required?
No, actually I opened the CBO through in the host community.
As long as through and through here.
I work with the host community, and actually we have a lot of Kenyans working with us. I'm not the only one. I'm their leader, but there are Somali Kenyans who actually feel and they want to be part of the discussion. They want to be part of the platform. So we registered as a Kenyan because they helped me with the IDs and everything. They are the ones who registered it. I'm not the one of the
you.
Yeah, I'm not.
You just work there.
Yeah, I work there because you can't open an RLO without a Kenyan ID. It's not easy. Everything you have to provide a Kenyan ID.
It is not easy.
Yeah.
It's just not easy.
No, it is not easy.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of departure. Now you're the legal mind here, Fabian. Just listening to what actually all of you are saying, like what Ayan was also practically saying there, that the police, I think it was also you who did say as well, that some of these documentations you will be given, but even the police don't, like the alien ID, they don't even know what this is. So the same, it's still government, much as it's different agencies. They don't understand. I don't know why there's this departure. And also, as you respond to that, you also talk about how there's still a departure with the Immigration Service Office and the new act, because yes, the new act is providing for A, B, C, and D, but the Immigration Service does not seem to know what this is. So then how do we help this situation? Because it's still government, but the same government does not understand what the same government is doing.
Yeah,
it is true. That is the tragedy of the government in its provision of services. What she's saying is true, and maybe to make it more clearer also on that is that the refugee ID itself has not been greatly populated into government services. So the government issues that refugee ID is the same like my ID appearances, and she said just the change of name. But this specific one, I can easily log into eCitizen and start registering a company or maybe do some online services. But the refugee ID has not been properly integrated. So, and if it's not going to be properly integrated in eCitizen services, what we are saying that a refugee cannot actually open a company. What we are trying to say also, if the refugee ID is not integrated in even Nairobi County online portal, to ensure that once you key it up, the refugee can even proceed to open a business name or maybe a business permits, then we're having a huge problem. If the refugee ID is not populated properly to the KRA system, just like my national ID, actually we are missing it completely. It's all political miscalculation to say, even the government is going to lose revenue because a refugee will not even pay taxes because it does not have the KRA PIN. The problem is the government has not populated it.
I hear you. Just hold it there, Fabian. You need to cross over to Diani, where we're still having that connected summit, and our very own Wairimu Njenga is there. Of course, we are just looking at perhaps what the Ministry of ICT is doing in regards to this particular summit. The moment we have Wairimu, we will be crossing over there to just tell us what more is happening in regards to this particular summit. Just as I said, bringing together different stakeholders from the ICT department, and there she is. Wairimu, what more do we know from Diani as far as this connected summit is concerned?
Well, when it comes to counties, we are still at the Connected Summit 2023. Now we are in the main hall where the main event will be happening. We are expecting in a few the CS for ICT, that is the Information, Communication and Digital Economy, to officiate this event. As you can see behind me, delegates are seated waiting for the opening of this Connected Summit. We'll be here for the next 3 days. Here there are government policymakers, there are innovators, there are CEOs of tech companies, and there are also financiers in this conference. And all these are the main sponsors of this event that has been organized by the ICT Authority, who are the main organizers of this event in collaboration with the Ministry of ICT. And this is an annual event that happens on a yearly basis right here in Diani or various counties across the country. We are in Kwale County. Later on, the governor for Kwale County will be speaking. Remember, counties are key when it comes to the rolling out of the digital economy, which is the theme for this year's conference, Endless Opportunities Shaping Our Future. We'll be speaking to tech companies who have set up base here just to share what their expectations are in regards to this conference. Remember, they are sharing ideas, they are sharing knowledge, they are sharing the challenges as well as some of the regulatory and policy frameworks that, or rather changes that need to be done in the ICT policy as well as the digital master plan. We also have Communication Authority here. We have the Ezra Chiloba CEO is already here. We're also seeing various government spokespersons, various government representatives seated right here at the conference. As my cameraman shows you, you can see around the delegates are waiting for the official event to happen. And just before that, I'll be speaking now to one of the players in the ICT industry, just to tell us more a little bit about what are his expectations and why Connected Summit. Sai, if you can kindly just join me right here. I'd like to know, maybe you can start by sharing us with your name and also tell us what are your expectations and why Connected.
Okay, my name is Ashraf Helmi. I'm from the Dell Technologies team, one of the sponsors here. My expectation is very simple, is that we need to collaborate between the government entities with the technology entities to come up with data protection policies and privacy, cyber recovery solution in discussion to make sure that our customers' data is available, not tampered, not compromised, not leaked. I'm expecting to see all the vendors in the room presenting their solution. Our solution from Dell Technologies will be presented in the exhibition area. We have a multiple of speaking slot, and our most focal point here today is related to cyber security solutions, cyber recovery, and also the smart cities.
It's about data privacy, and that's something that is key when it comes to the Connected Summit. Where are we as a country?
I think we need to follow the standards like the GDPR. You need to build the body to regulate this data privacy, how it's being communicated between business and to foster this data between the business and the individual. You need to set laws, and yes, we are on the right track that we are going that, because looking into the region, there is a lot of laws that has been enforced, but it needs to be collaborative, governed, monitored, reviewed, keep on government, improving it until you come up with suits the culture. Because yes, GDPR is a standard worldwide, but it might not be within the same concept that we are using the data privacy.
Before I let you go, one of the key plan for this government is rolling out the 100,000 digital superhighway. How is that going to revolutionize the digital space?
Okay, so I'll tell you what is very important from my perspective, our perspective. That's it.
Well, I'll take you back to studio, but before you can see the Cabinet Secretary for Information Communication and Digital Economy is coming in right now, and he's followed by the delegates as well as Musalia Mudavadi right there, who are going to officiate this event as it takes place right here in Diani, Kwale County at the Leisure Lodge. Well, we'll take you back to studio, Victor.
Thank you very much, Wari Munjenga, for that. Of course, that is the Connected Kenya Summit, and just what you saw there is the Cabinet Secretary for ICT and Digital Economy, Eliud Owalo, and also the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, amongst other dignitaries making their way there. And just as she said, this is going to be a 3-day summit looking at possible ways and just matters to do with ICT and digital economy, as well as the endless opportunities therein. But back in studio, we continue apace with our conversation looking at refugee integration, and also we look at perhaps possible solutions as far as this integration is concerned. Before we took that live, just speaking to Fabian, perhaps look as the missing links as you had told us, and even as you continue responding to that, you would also tell us how we can broker that, looking at how we can bridge these missing links, so that we do not have the same government offering solutions and still problem underlining because lack of understanding therein. What more can you tell us with that, in regards to that?
Thank you so much. It is always good to have a break.
Yes.
So
and reflect and think.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What the government needs to do, number one solution is to populate the refugee ID into the government systems.
Yeah.
But the question is how? I don't believe that we need even to amend alone that. It's purely a directive. So if, for instance, and it's true as I highlighted, the government is missing a huge revenue source when they are not populating the refugee ID into the KRA system, it's your document, you're the one who issued it. Just as you issue, populate it to KRA system. And you're going to get revenue because refugees, of course, when they do business, they're going to do that. If we are seeing a problem opening businesses, companies in eCitizen, just populate it. You just need either a directive from the PS or a CS, as simple as that, a communication to ensure that, hey, populate it completely, just like a normal, the way you populate a foreign national, do the same to that. By so doing, we'll be healing a lot of things. One, the apparent sometimes discrimination of that refugee ID given by the issuer, who is the government.
Okay.
And also maybe to also make a suggestion that there is always a huge process, a huge time in processing the refugee ID. Sometimes it can take even a year. What we are saying that, hey, the government, you can do this. Just ensure you process that ID within at most a month. You see, it's just a direct because you have the fingerprints, you have all the systems. And maybe to always suggestion, because and what I've been stressing about that, let not be the document issued by the government be the source of discrimination. Let not be the initiative of the government to populate all the services into digital be actually an exclusionary approach towards a refugee. Let there be an inclusion. If I'm a Kenyan, this refugee is my brother, is my sister, and is my friend. So let everything be populated, and by so I think we'll be changing now the narrative. I know something which we need to have a candid conversation on is Class M work permit. From the very beginning, whether it's supposed to be there or not, and if supposed to be there, what can be done so that perhaps when the refugee ID is issued, it's either empowered to also serve as a work permit or it's given simultaneously the work permit. We are not saying that employ people. We actually say give them the right to work, let them just look for work as anybody else.
I hear you. And I can tell you for sure there's really quite a lot we need to have discussed, and we could have discussed, including even part of what is featuring in this new act, including even integrating a refugee from the 7 member states of the East African community. But before we even look into all that, there's something I had said that I really had to ask. And this is also, featuring into this new act, and this is largely, yes, they can be able to live, but within designated areas. And I was just wondering, what is this designated area? Because if you're giving someone the right to live, and you're saying that this new act will provide for that, because ideally with the Refugee Act of 2006 is that they could only stay in camps. You come from whichever part of the continent you're coming from, you can only stay in that camp. So even if you had your master's, your PhD, I mean, that's it. That's ideally it. But then, designated areas, which ones are these? Which areas are this?
The new Refugee Act unfortunately does not define what a designated area is. And looking back to the 60s to the 80s, the practice where refugees were allowed to move around anyhowly. And most people benefited from refugees from Uganda as teachers then. But then we had an influx in the 90s when Somalis really came in due to the conflict
I hear
in
you,
Somalia.
Damaris, and from what you're saying, I can already deduce that there's really quite a heavy story you want to tell us from that. But I'm really sorry to cut you short. And the entire team. I think we need to pick this conversation again next week, because you have to cross over to Diani and you have to cap this discussion at this particular point. Like I said, there's really quite a lot we could have discussed, and we have to do that. But we have to head over to Diani. I believe the CSICT is speaking. We cross over to Diani for that Connected Summit.
Welcome for you. And for those who are here last year, welcome again for that. But let's set the stage for you from where we are and where we have come from. We'll play a short video to set the stage for that.
The story is told that man walked his first steps right here in Africa. The evidence reveals that he didn't just begin his walk here, he began his thinking, creating and developing right here. And so it goes. Africa is the cradle of technology. Kenya's tech journey has been long and steady. As a people, Kenyans are